All right, so click on your first floor. Some of you have dimensions in there now, which is great. Hopefully some of those dimensions are locked. I'm going to show you that you can make a copy of your first floor. So if you right click on your first floor, you can say duplicate view, and I'm going to say duplicate without the detailing. All right, and I don't want it as a dependent view. Does anyone need help finding this? Great. So when that shows up, you're going to see first floor copy. I want you to rename that, and you're going to say first floor dims for dimensions. Without. All right, so you'll see that you now are working on a copy of your first floor. We're going to add some dimensions, and we're going to add layers of dimensions. So under the Annotate tab up here, if you're not in the Annotate tab, we're going to grab the Align Dimension tool. Okay, and we're going to need to switch gears a couple of times as we're adding dimensions. What I mean by that is what we are selecting. So first we're going to pick the face of the core, which is right here. And I want you to select the outside face of your exterior wall. All right. Then I want you to select the middle of your window. I'm going to assume that this unit is a single window unit. This is Melanie's house, by the way. I'm going to switch gears again and go to center of the core. Click on this wall. I'm going to click on this center of this window, the center of this door, center of this window, center of this window. And now I'm back to an exterior wall, so I got to switch gears and go to face of core and select the outside of that face. That's step one. I'm going to go in and lock all these things because I don't want any of them to move unless I'm not done with where they're going to be located. But if I'm happy with where my windows are, then I'm going to lock all these. Let's say, for example, I was unhappy with this window. So I could unlock that dimension, and I could select that window, and I could change its dimension somewhere. All right, and come in here, and now my window over. I may have to remove some other constraints. It looks like Melanie has locked a lot of things on her house. So I'm going to leave that alone for now. Most of you probably will have things moving around. Now I'm going to ignore the fact that some of these numbers are silly. I'm hoping the exterior number comes out good. We're going to go back to Align Dimension again, go to the face of the core, select the outside wall, switch to middle of the core, or center of the core, select this one interior wall. If you have multiple interior walls, you would select all of them. Go back to face of core and select this. That's your next layer, and you're going to lock those. And then finally, you're going to go and select the outside walls, the outermost walls. So on an architectural set of plans, and that's going to get locked as well. On an architectural set of drawings plans, there'll be at least 3 layers of dimensions on a single wall. They'll be locating the doors and windows. They'll be locating the interior walls relative to the exterior walls. And then there'll be an overall dimension. And thank you, Melanie, for actually picking a round number. Now you're going to do that for every side of your house. So you're going to need to go around. Melanie hasn't put her windows in on this side yet, but if they were there, we'd put a layer for windows and we'd go through and do that. And the same thing is true on the front of her house. Now, this is a little bit unique in that we have some angles here, so we may need to deal with these kind of dimensions a little bit differently. But let's take a stab at how we might do this side of the house. So again, I would say, okay, aligned, face of the core, select this outside wall. I'm going to select the middle of this window. I got an interior wall, so I know I need to switch to mid or center of core. Select that. when you're selecting windows, it'll automatically snap to the center. So I'm going to leave it on center of core because I know I have another interior wall. Going to jump to this. What do we have here? It looks like I'm just going to this front door unit would probably come as one unit, so I'd pick the center of that. I'd select the center of my interior wall, another interior wall. Oops, I skipped a window. I got to go back and click on that window. It'll automatically update. Click that window, and then I think I'm going to switch to face of the core again and select this guy over here, which is going to be my overall kind of outside dimension of the house. It's kind of a little bit different way to do this, but I think that's what I want to do. So let me move this down. All right, so that's my first layer of dimensions. I'm probably going to pull them out here. Maybe not. I've got this to deal with as well. We might have to deal with that porch independently. Yeah, you know what I think I'd do? I think I'd pull these out and put those in, and I'd lock all those guys if I were happy with them. Lock all those in place, and then put that second layer in, right? So we're going to go back. Again, I've got face of core. Switch to center of core. Just do my interior walls next, because that's another layer of dimensions. And look at that. These are nice as well. And switch back to face of core for my outside wall. And now I've got my second layer of dimensions, and those are all locked up. And then finally, I would come on and grab one more set, which is going to be my exterior walls. And I've got my third layer of dimensions, and that's locked. I would do this all the way around the house, right? So I got to come over here. These are going to be kind of funky because I've got my garage is going to be a little bit of overlap there, so I might need to move these dimensions further out so that there's room for these dimensions in here. And what might that look like? We could come in here and go with aligned, and again select that, select my outer face here, select my center of my door. I don't believe it will let me select that too. All right, so I've got my first level there, and then I would go back and do my next level, which would be just this, this, and this. So we'll do that one more time. Here we go, here, here, and select that again. Oops. Not sure exactly what I selected. I lost it. I'll undo that last. Remember, Control Z is a wonderful thing. It's probably the most worn out button on my keyboard because I did it too many times. Put that one back in. There's a forward button here and a reverse. You can use those as well. All right, so some of you are going to have unique situations where you have angles like this. And usually you would put the dimensions into the locations. You can also put an angle dimension in if you want. And there are some great additional videos on, if you search dimensioning in Revit, you're going to find all kinds of things. So in Melanie's case, or in you probably have unique things as well. What you might want to do is say, I'm going to go to my first floor and duplicate that again. Where am I? And I'm going to rename this one first floor porch. And then we can just simply create a whole set of dimensions, or I can say even porch dimensions. And then Melanie, you could go in here and say, okay, I need to get dimensions just for my porch. So I would go in there and say, how far from the face of my core do I come to the beginning? Sorry. Annotate, align, face of core. So How far is it from there to my floor, to the center of my columns? And you could go in and just put the dimensions on that are relative to your porch, right? And then you'd have a separate sheet that would just be the porch so that they don't get confused with other dimensions. And obviously you'd have to put the dimensions coming out here as well. Most importantly for now is I'd like you to get your exterior walls locked in place, because some people's things are still moving around, and when our floors and levels and all of that needs to get straightened out before we move forward. So that's